Hey everyone, welcome to the shop. My name is Jello Grayson and today we finally have a new tutorial video! Yeah! It's actually been a while since I've done my last one and I still have to do a follow-up video on that. Problem was I got super busy, especially in the start of the year, so things had to be pushed back. But rest assured, I will get to it eventually. Anyway, now for the topic at hand. So today, as promised on Instagram and on Facebook, we are going to be creating foam flowers. These are two foam flowers that I made using 3mm EVA foam. And I actually got this template from these foam flowers that I have and I bought in Shopee. Now, the Shopee link will be in the description for you guys if you want to buy your own. Now, as you can see, this is a smaller flower than the one that I have over here. And I realized, after looking at this flower, I tried taking it apart and I looked at it and I was like, hey, I can make this myself. And I needed a bigger flower anyway. So what I did was I went on Fusion 360 and I designed this flower template into something bigger. Alright? So as you can see, it's nice and perfect, all shaped well and symmetrical. Now, the reason I did that was because I was actually a bit too lazy to do it on paper, but you can do it on paper if you really wanted to. But the great part is I actually did my homework and I put that on a PDF file which can be downloaded by you guys so you can follow along the build. For you guys with 3D printers, I'll also be having this for download, so everybody will be happy. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get right into the build.
To start things off, I used a 3mm EVA foam sheet and I transferred my template onto it using a silver pen. You could actually use a thinner sheet, especially for smaller flowers, since that'll make it nice and proportional, at least the size of the thickness of the petals. As you can see, I used 3 pieces, and if you want a bigger flower, you can just add more petals. Before I do my cuts, I make sure I hone the edge of my X-Acto blade. And what this does, it doesn't really sharpen the blade per se, but it does straighten the edge just so that we have a nice and smooth cut. I proceeded to cut through all of the lines that I made, and I made sure to be extremely careful, especially in the round pieces, as you can see right now. Those are the stuff that's going to be sticking out, and we're going to be folding it over into each other later on in the process. Now that we have all 3 parts cut up, we can now proceed to gluing them together. So for my glue, you've seen me use this before. This is Greco 888 cyanoacrylate adhesive. And it's basically super glue on steroids, as I said in my previous video. Anyway, so I start by putting the first petal into the center. I then take the next petal, which is almost directly opposite of the first one that we did, and brought that to the center. Next comes the third one. And as you can see, I am flexing it a little bit just so that it curls a bit more. We're going to be doing a little bit more flexing on the petal edges later with the heat gun, but for now I just wanted to see if what I was doing was correct. And with this last petal, we are done with the very first layer of detail of our rose. Some people may stop at this point because it already looks like a flower bud. And for some uses, this will be already perfect. But we want to make a much bigger flower, so let's go to layer number 2. If you look carefully, you'll notice that I aligned one of the petals on our second detail piece to where 2 petals intersect in the first piece. This just gives it a nice alternating look that'll look great later on. Next comes the third piece, and you'll just want to repeat whatever you did in the previous one. If you want to make more rows of petals, I suggest gradually increasing the size of your template to accommodate for the larger size of your flower. And that's it for construction. Not too hard, isn't it? The next step in our process is to use a heat gun to soften and curl the petals for a more realistic look. But not before wearing our safety gloves. Safety first, folks. This process not only makes our foam more malleable, but it also seals most of the pores to make priming a lot easier. After heating the foam, I use my fingers to pull and stretch the petals to the desired shape. The next step would be to glue down some of the center petals to retain their curved shape. I used Greco to set them, and having the petals curl outward from the center like this is key to getting that nice flowery look. One last blast from the heat gun, and we're ready for priming. To prime our foam flower, I used acrylic gloss emulsion, a latex top coat used for glossing up walls. For those unfamiliar, this is similar to watered down PVA but much more consistent. And you notice, just to make things easier, I put a barbecue stick through the center and dipped it in our priming paint. To shake off the excess paint, I spun the flower using the stick while it was still in the tub. As you can imagine, this is way faster than trying to paint all of the crevices with a paintbrush. After each coat, I left the flower to dry for about 10 minutes before dipping it again. I repeated this process 5 times to get this nice glossy surface, which is ready to accept paint. From here, you can paint it whatever color you need. For mine, I opted to airbrush it red with some pearlescent red highlights mixed in, just to make it a little more interesting.
Oh, no. Still wet. Well, that's a good looking flower if I do say so myself. Anyway, that about wraps it up for today's tutorial. I hope you learned something new. Again, the templates for this are going to be up on the description below if you want to download them. Both the 3D file as well as the PDF paper printable file. Okay? If you learned something new, please let me know in the comments. And if you find another better way to do this prop, just let me know in the comments as well. Let's share our stories, let's share our insights on what we can do better, what we can do easier, and let's get the discussion going, y'all. And with that, thank you very much for sticking around all the way up to the end. If you want to learn more, be sure to subscribe to my channel and follow me on my social media, so Facebook, on Instagram, and yeah, here on YouTube as well. Anyway, see you in the next video, guys, and don't forget, stay crafty, folks. Bye! Oof, wire. Anyway, I forgot to turn off my compressor.